creepy last words people said right before dying. Rachel said that she had been caring for a female patient who was dying of stage 4 lung cancer for weeks. She was frail, her voice barely more than a whisper, but sharp as ever. One night, during her rounds, Rachel said that the patient stopped her with the question, "Did you see him?" she asked. "See who?" asked Rachel. "The man in the suit. He comes when the lights are low, stands by the window. He's handsome, but his eyes." She shuddered. "He keeps asking me if I want to make a deal," she said. "He says he can take it all away. The pain, the sickness. I tell him no every night. Every night I tell him no," she said. Rachel said that she thought it was the morphine talking, until her last night. She gripped Rachel's hand and whispered, "He's angry tonight. I told him no again." Her breathing grew heavier. "He said it was my last chance." Rachel squeezed the patient's hand and told her to rest, but as she turned to leave, a chill ran down her spine. The room felt different, heavy even. An hour later, the patient had passed away. Rachel said that she whispered a quiet goodbye and glanced out the window. For a split second, she said that she swears she saw something, a figure in a black suit, watching, and then just as quickly, he was gone.
In 1987, a couple woke up to a masked man standing at the foot of their bed at roughly 4 a.m. He reached into his duffel bag and pulled out 4 sets of handcuffs before demanding that they lie on their stomach and cuff their wrists and ankles. He whispered, "Be quiet and don't move or I'll hurt someone." Since he was armed, the couple had no choice but to comply. The intruder then left the master bedroom and gently woke up their 7-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter. He then calmly walked them back to their parents' bedroom. He seemed to be confidently and precisely following an exact set of steps, although at this point the family was still unaware of his motive. Once he rounded up all the family members in the master bedroom, he finally communicated his plan. He stated that this was a simple robbery and asked for clothes, money, and food, but the family had a bad feeling. After all, this seemed like a lot of work just for a simple burglary. However, the parents had no choice but to comply. The intruder taped their mouths shut and blindfolded the kids before forcing the parents into their wardrobe and barricading it shut with furniture. He then used their bedroom phone to make a call, but his conversation was largely unintelligible. He then took the daughter to a separate room and assaulted her before thoroughly bathing her. Afterward, the intruder left for the kitchen to have some of their leftovers and milk. He finally left the home through the front door at about 6 a.m., meaning that this entire ordeal lasted about 2 hours. This was only the first attack of several, and news outlets soon gave him the moniker of Mr. Cruel. Despite the creation of a task force dedicated solely to finding him, his identity remains unknown to this day.
This was one of the biggest medical disasters in history. In the late 1950s, a new pharmaceutical was being introduced called thalidomide, and it was a miracle cure for morning sickness for pregnant women. Doctors and patients loved it. It was marketed as being safe, and it really seemed like a medical miracle for a little while. But by 1961, thalidomide was pulled off of shelves worldwide. Why, you ask? Because thousands of babies were being born with severe malformations. Some babies were born with tiny arms and legs or missing limbs. Some were born blind, deaf, or with internal organ damage. And some babies didn't survive at all. It turns out the earlier the mother took it in her pregnancy, the more severe the damage was. People were obviously devastated, and this caused a lot of public panic, and a lot happened subsequently. But first, let's talk about how this happened. And it turns out it comes down to one oversight. And that was that thalidomide was never tested on pregnant animals. At the time, drug testing wasn't nearly as regulated as it was today. And there just wasn't a regulation for companies to test how a medicine is affecting a developing embryo. It was just kind of assumed to be safe. So when thalidomide finally was tested on pregnant animals, the results were the same. The animals were giving birth to babies with same malformations. This tragedy transformed many people's lives, and it also transformed the way medicine is developed. The field of toxicology was born because of this tragedy. The world started to demand rigorous testing of medicine before it could reach human patients. Most of the people affected were in the UK. It never made it to the United States, and it's actually all thanks to the efforts of this woman. This is Frances Oldham Kelsey, the official in charge of the FDA review of the medicine thalidomide. And she refused to approve the drug until she saw evidence that it wasn't harmful to pregnant women, which ultimately it was. So thanks to this woman's due diligence, she saved countless lives, and she actually received an award from President Kennedy. There's also a corporate greed component to this story, because initially the victims received no compensation from the manufacturers of thalidomide. It took years of legal battles and public outrage to finally make things right. And in 1973, a settlement was reached and the Thalidomide Trust was established to support survivors. If we're to learn anything from the thalidomide tragedy, it's that we have to learn from history so that we don't make the same mistakes again, and that this wasn't just a failure of science, it was a failure of responsibility.
This is Frank Sheldon, the Jeffrey Epstein of the 1970s, who's responsible for the murders of multiple children. And oh yeah, he was never caught. He never served a single day in prison. Frank Sheldon owned this private island called North Fox Island in the middle of Lake Michigan. And this is where he would fly boys out to be photographed, abused, and in some cases, most likely murdered. Now, before Frank could be arrested in the United States for being the head of a massive pedophile ring, somebody tipped him off and he escaped to a foreign country on a private plane. But I've been working with the author of the book The Kill Jar to investigate Frank Sheldon's crimes, and we've uncovered information that points to the fact that Frank Sheldon not only escaped justice, but when he landed in the Netherlands, he actually started up an even bigger pedophile ring with more evil intentions, financing snuff films, working with convicted predators to victimize children, and yeah, he died a free man at the end of his days. Nobody has ever been held criminally responsible for Frank's crimes on North Fox Island. This is the very last day of our campaign to raise funds for this project. We are producing a 6-part documentary series where we're going to be traveling to the Netherlands to investigate the crimes and interview victims. We're going to be traveling to India to do the same thing, and all over America too. And author J. Reuben Appelman is writing a book about this whole thing, and he's already uncovered information that our government is not going to like. This is the last 12 hours of the campaign, so if you want to help us achieve our goals, just click the link in my bio and you can donate to this project and get yourself some perks. When I say that I've never worked on a project that's more meaningful and more important than this one, I really mean it. This is an incredibly dark and twisted web of criminals that all escape justice, and hopefully by shining a light on them with this book and documentary series, we can get some people arrested, we can get some justice for the victims, and we can finally chronicle the lost history of this organization that, according to governments across the world, didn't exist. Once again, if you want to help us out with this goal, just click the link in my bio.
On Halloween night, 1984, a pregnant mother opened her front door and found an adult male wearing a wolf mask carrying a machete. She immediately knew that this was no trick-or-treater and began yelling for help and told her young daughter, Deanna, to hide. However, with her husband at the store, she never stood a chance. The intruder violently ended her life. Once Deanna heard her mother's screams, she ran behind the couch and covered herself up, praying that the intruder wouldn't find her. He paced around the house, checking closets, bathrooms, and underneath beds. After a couple of minutes, he yelled out, "If you say anything, I will come back and I will kill you." He then left the scene. The husband arrived home a minute or two afterwards and called the police. The police immediately suspected the husband and took him into the station. However, surveillance footage of him at the grocery store cleared him right away. However, it didn't take long for the police to find out who the real killer was. Doreen and her ex-husband Michael shared a son a few years before the crime. Unfortunately, the young boy drowned, and Michael tried to sue Doreen for his death, but lost. The fact that Doreen remarried and created a new family pushed him to insanity. Due to overwhelming evidence, he was sentenced to death.
Ted Bundy, one of America's most infamous serial killers, was a master manipulator hiding his dark urges behind charm and intelligence. Between 1974 and 78, Bundy kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered at least 30 young women, though the true number may be far higher. His reign of terror finally ended when he was sentenced to death in Florida. In 1989, Bundy had the chance to request a final meal, but instead, he declined, leaving his fate to the standard prison menu: medium rare steak, eggs over easy, toast with butter and jelly, hash browns, milk, coffee, and juice. He ate very little of it, his appetite completely gone, knowing the electric chair awaited him at dawn. Minutes before his execution, Bundy sat in silence. There was no final words of remorse, no pleas for mercy. Just the hum of the electric chair, the last sound he would ever hear. Next, John Wayne Gacy. He entertained children as a clown at fundraisers, but behind the makeup, John Wayne Gacy was a monster. Between 1972 and 78, he lured at least 33 young men to his home, where he assaulted, tortured, and murdered them, burying most of the bodies under his house. When his crimes were finally uncovered, Gacy showed no remorse, laughing at the families of his victims in court. In 1994, before his execution by lethal injection, Gacy requested a meal fit for a king, a bucket of fried chicken, fried shrimp, French fries, and fresh strawberries. After finishing his meal, Gacy's last words were chilling, "Kiss my ass." He showed no fear, no regret, just arrogance, even as the poison flowed through his veins.
This mother abandoned her 3 kids for several years and let them live in disgusting conditions all by themselves. On top of all this, she lived somewhere else knowing her kids were in disgusting conditions. She didn't pay her landlord rent for several months, so he conducted a wellness check. Police showed up and found garbage 4 feet high in most of the rooms. They found mold and human feces all over the place, and the tub was overflowing with feces. They did post photos of the scene, however, I can't show them on here, it is that disgusting. And the person that went inside had to wear a literal hazmat suit to be safe. Deputies located a 15-year-old boy and his 12 and 13-year-old sisters. The kids admitted that their mother left them back in 2020. They had been surviving off of food that strangers and their own mother would leave at the doorstep. These were like frozen meals that they would just heat up. They also never had any toilet paper for those years. It's super sad hearing about this. Apparently the kids didn't even know how to flush a toilet or use proper hygiene items like a toothbrush. Their toenails were also so long they could barely walk properly, apparently. They have been transported to a hospital for evaluation. I hope these kids go to an actual good home with a relative or someone nice. The mother, Kelly Bryant, though, was hit with many counts of child abuse, child abandonment, child neglect. Her bond is set at $250 million. She's definitely not getting out of this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
So this TikToker really wants to be famous and known for something. And oh, is he about to get what he wants. Now his name's Ali, and he's 29, living in San Diego, and one day he starts posting videos on TikTok, where he's doing like impressions of Skyrim characters, and he's always doing impressions of Tony Montana from Scarface. And these videos blow up, and so he keeps making more and more. And pretty soon, Ali has nearly 1 million followers. And so he might actually be on his way to being famous. Now, Ali is married to this nice woman, Anna, and they have a daughter together. And soon, she starts appearing in some of his TikToks every now and then, including one very memorable TikTok of them dancing with a caption talking about how their relationship is drama-free. But whatever, from their videos, it appears as if their relationship is good, and his career seems to be on the up and up, and I can't imagine anything would ever go wrong. Until... Here's the thing about Ali. He's not the most stable person in the world, and over time, he picks up the habit of doing a lot of nose drugs that we'll just call Coca-Cola. In fact, he's known to whip out a huge bag of Coca-Cola on his live streams, and he'll get high in front of his audience. Now, obviously, I can't show you the part where he does the drugs, but regardless, this dude is obsessed with doing everything on camera. Like when he and Anna get into fights, he'll live stream it for some reason.
Don't even f***ing talk to me, f***ing taking away my whole life.
Yeah, it's crazy. But what he doesn't ever put on camera and show his TikTok audience is the parts where he gets violent with her, which he does sometimes when they argue. He's like shoving her and punching her and stuff like that. In fact, his violent outbursts get so bad that over the course of a few months, she calls police on him 9 different times. But that doesn't seem to faze him or get him to stop. In fact, all the attention he's getting online has made him feel like he's untouchable.
I don't even want to be like Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not trying to be the next Al Pacino. I probably could.
And of course, he makes sure to let Anna know, like in voicemails and stuff.
I'm a f***ing god. I'm a sexy motherfucker. I'm a f***ing internet celebrity.
And so at this point, you're probably like, Ray, if he's such a psychopath, why doesn't she just leave? Well, here's the thing about Anna. She's actually a Filipino citizen, and she got her visa to the US through her marriage to Ali. So when Anna brings up separating, he threatens to have her deported, which means she won't be able to be with her daughter who would stay with Ali in the US. So she's essentially trapped. Not only that, he also does this thing to her when he doesn't get his way that he'll threaten to unalive himself.
Just keep calling the cops.
Yeah, because he just tried to commit suicide. So that's what it is. Yeah, the gun in his face. With my daughter sleeping on the couch.
I had to do that just to get her to come home.
And if that isn't bad enough, he thinks that because they're married, he's entitled to smash whenever he wants. Of course, Anna doesn't want to because he's abusive to her.
When's the last time we had sex? Tell me.
There's a billion other women out there for you that will you in a heartbeat.
Yeah, a billion other men for you too. Is that your hope?
And so because she's not smashing with him, he starts getting paranoid that she's out there cheating on him.
There's no way that you're not somebody right now. There's no way. No woman as beautiful as you is gonna go a month without sex.
Here's the crazy thing though. Despite how often he gets jealous and accuses her, it's actually him who's been sleeping around on her. Because one day, Anna hears a knock on the door, and she opens it, and it's some woman who lives in the building. And this woman tells Anna, me and Ali have been sleeping together in your apartment. I guess she's trying to warn her or let her know. I actually don't know why this woman confesses. But this is when Anna has finally had enough.
There's my wife, 7 years. She wants to leave me after 7 years. She couldn't even wait for the visa to finish.
That just means I don't need your visa. That's not what I came here for. I came here for you.
And that's when Anna decides she can't take it anymore, and she's gonna separate and go stay with a friend.
You said you don't love me anymore.
Leave.
You said you don't love me anymore. You said you don't love me anymore.
I said leave.
No.
I said leave.
No.
All right, then me and your daughter will leave. I'm trying, man.
No, you're not. You're disrespecting me. You ain't trying. You ain't trying.
So now Anna and her daughter are staying with a friend, which is not ideal, but at least she's safe. But then one day, Ali calls her and says, "You know what? You can have the apartment. Just take the apartment and I'll go stay in a hotel." And this is great news to Anna. Like, she'll have her old place back with her daughter and, most importantly, without Ali. And so she moves back in. But here's what Anna doesn't know, though. Sneaky ass Ali has made a copy of the electronic key to her place so that he can enter it anytime he wants. And it's only a matter of time before he goes crazy again. And one day, out of nowhere, Anna gets sent a bunch of roses, and they're from Ali. Now, she's done with him, and so she doesn't reach out and say thank you, or that she even got them, nor should she, and this pisses Ali off. And he's apparently been up all night doing Coca-Cola, so he's way out of his mind, and he is just gonna lay into her. And so he goes over to the apartment, and he lets himself in. But, luckily for her, she's not there. And he's like, F this, and he just starts trashing the place, knocking things over, throwing her stuff around, smashing the roses he got her. But then, to make it worse, he takes an iPad that he has. Now, this iPad has Discord downloaded on it. And so he takes this iPad and he hides it in between the wall and the bed. And he leaves it on so that it will record audio of anything that goes on in the apartment. He thinks he's going to try and catch her cheating, which it really isn't cheating because they're no longer together. But despite that, then Ali leaves and he goes back to his hotel. Then Anna comes home and she sees that the apartment's been trashed and she knows it was Ali and she's shocked and she's hurt. Like, how could he do this to the place that his own daughter lives in? Now, her daughter will be home from school soon, and Anna doesn't want her to see all this destruction that her dad caused. So she calls a mutual friend of her and Ali's, this guy, Rayburn. And Rayburn comes over to help her clean up this mess. Meanwhile, at Ali's hotel, he wakes up from his drug nap, and he hears Anna through the iPad, and he can hear her in her apartment talking with another man. And he just snaps. Another man in the apartment with his wife? He is not gonna let this slide. And so he gets his pew-pew. And then he drives from his hotel to her building as fast as he can. And then boom, he busts into her apartment. And he immediately sees Anna and Rayburn sitting on the couch. And instantly, blam, 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 he shoots Rayburn. And then blam, he shoots Anna too. And unfortunately, they're both instantly unalived. And pretty quickly after that, police show up. And boom, Ali is arrested. Now, I don't actually have a mugshot of him, but here's a picture of him in jail behind glass. Now remember, Ali wanted to be famous and known for something. So he's really upset about how this is going to affect his acting career. No, you weren't. Anyway, he goes to trial and he gets sentenced to life in prison. Good.
She wanted to kill someone who looked like her so she could fake her own death, steal that girl's life, and then frame someone for her murder. It sounds like the plot of a Lifetime movie, but I swear it's not. This is Sheriban K. Sheriban immigrated to Germany from Iraq when she was 7 and seemingly had a pretty normal upbringing. From a very young age, Sheriban had an interest in the beauty space and like the beauty industry, beauty community. She was also described as being quite a drama queen and also wanting to be the center of attention. So naturally, she wanted to be a beauty influencer. Sheriban married very young to a man named Rowan. They had a very toxic relationship. Sheriban was like really abusive to her husband Rowan, like physically abusive. She was also very controlling and jealous when it came to her husband Rowan, which is interesting considering that she was the one that was like out all hours of the night and cheating on her husband with multiple men. And at the age of 22 years old, she got pregnant with another man's child. So naturally, her husband finds out that she's been unfaithful, and instead of like him getting mad at her, she got mad at him for finding out that she was cheating and attacked him. Sheriban ended up choosing not to keep her baby, and because she was such a terrible wife and person, her husband Rowan got a protection order against her and also filed for divorce. After her divorce, Sheriban got really lost. She started hanging out in like the bad part of town with like the wrong crowd. She got involved in substances and also petty theft. She was also hooking up with a lot of people at this time, which is whatever, but she was asking these men that she was hooking up with if they would kill for her. Sheriban wanted a member of her ex-husband Rowan's family dead, so she ended up giving one of the guys that she was hooking up with 5,000 euros to kill them, but they ended up scamming her and just like taking off with her money. So Sheriban came up with an even crazier plan. She was going to find her doppelganger, someone that she thought looked just like her, so she could kill that girl, fake her own death, steal that girl's life, and also frame her ex-husband Rowan for her murder. Sheriban created all these fake profiles on social media so she could DM aspiring influencers, pretending to be someone like in the industry with an opportunity for these aspiring influencers to collab or model for a project. Sheriban was DMing like dozens of aspiring influencers just because they kind of look like her, and she wanted to kill them. And they're just like innocent strangers in all of this. And this is how Sheriban got in contact with Khadijah O. Khadijah is obviously very beautiful. She went through like a lot in her life, but she came out the other side stronger, and she had big dreams of being a beauty influencer. Using one of her fake accounts, Sheriban DM'd Khadijah pretending to be a salon owner, promising Khadijah free beauty treatments if she just posted about it on social media. Sheriban even offered to pick up Khadijah at her house and take her to her salon because her salon was 100 miles away. So on August 16th, 2022, Sheriban made sure to let her parents know that she was going to be meeting up with her ex-husband Rowan, because remember, the plan is to frame her husband for her murder. She's going like full Gone Girl. She thinks she's like Gone Girl or something. But when Sheriban never came home, her parents went out looking for her. They drove to her ex-husband's house because that's where she said she was going to be. But on their way there, they found their daughter's car parked on a street like right near her ex-husband's house. They walk up to their daughter's car and they're looking in the back seat, and can you imagine, in the back seat of the car they see a young girl's body, her bloody body, which they obviously thought was their daughter. This young woman who was in Sheriban's back seat had been brutally attacked. She was attacked 56 times with like a sharp weapon that you would find in your kitchen, primarily in her face. The media began immediately reporting that Sheriban was found murdered in her own car near her ex-husband's house, so her ex-husband Rowan is clearly the prime suspect, which is exactly what Sheriban wanted. But what Sheriban didn't take into account is the fact that DNA testing is a thing. So imagine the shock when they do the autopsy to find out that the body they have is not Sheriban, but another missing woman, Khadijah O. So what had really happened was that Sheriban had convinced a guy that she was hooking up with named Shakia, to kill this innocent stranger for her, Khadijah. And then together they attacked Khadijah 56 times, mostly in her face. because they were hoping that they wouldn't be able to find out that it wasn't Sheriban if her face was completely disfigured. Then together, they left Khadijah's body in the backseat of Sheriban's car and then parked it near her ex-husband's house. So hopefully people would think that it was Sheriban dead in her own car and that her ex-husband had killed her. And then the plan was obviously for Sheriban and her accomplice Shakia to run away together, live happily ever after, but they were caught and arrested the very next day. When Sheriban was arrested, she was wearing Khadijah's clothes and carrying around her purse that she had stolen from her body. The plan was to completely take over Khadijah's life. Luckily, both Sheriban and Shakia were both found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. I'm not sure how old Shakia was, but Sheriban was 23 years old and so was Khadijah. Just so young. And if you watched the end of this video, like always, thank you so much. Leave me all your thoughts in the comments. And while you're there, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. And until then, I will see you guys next time.